I'm standing. So my name is Stephan Ulrich. I'm from the International Labour Organization here in Hanoi. I work on a program where we support small and medium-sized companies to deal exactly with those challenges we are discussing today, like how can they weather like international competition that requires them to upgrade their human resources, become better and more productive to deliver the products at the quality, at the pace, and also with the social compliance requirements that many of the international buyers nowadays demand from companies. And SMEs are particularly challenged in that because they just don't have the same means to invest as large companies have. And in Vietnam in particular, they don't often have the same benefits that foreign direct investment companies are getting here in Vietnam. So my presentation is going to focus on CPTPP and the benefits for Vietnam. And I'm arguing that actually it's not going to change a lot because actually CPTPP is not the key game changer for Vietnam, but actually technology is the game changer that Vietnam needs to pay attention to. So this is the focus I would like to give in my presentation. And just continuing on from my previous speaker, the good news is CPTPP will have significant benefits for Vietnam. The World Bank estimates by 2030, GDP growth will be between 1 and 3.5% higher with CPTPP versus without it. So this is very good news for Vietnam. It will be one of the main benefiters from this agreement. It would have benefited a lot more with the US in this agreement, but we know politics came in the way, so that's not happening. So the other good news is basically CPTPP will benefit basically all income groups of workers and professionals in Vietnam. So the benefits will be quite widely spread. But what we also know is most of the free trade agreements, and the CPTPP won't be any different, those in the higher skilled range of the income distribution are likely to benefit a lot more than those in the lower 40% of the income distribution. And this is per se a concern for many countries. We have seen that a lot of instability and unrest can come from these kind of like widening inequalities. So this is something Vietnam needs to pay attention to in this process. And another thing is that there's a gender equality dimension to it, because usually in the higher 60% of the income distribution, we have a lot more men than women, and they are already earning more. And through free trade, they're actually going to increase those earnings on top of it. So this is another big concern for Vietnam, to make sure we're not increasing the gender disparities in terms of income. So these things we need to keep in mind when we talk about CPTPP and the impacts. Then another big impact from CPTPP is, as we heard before, international investors love Vietnam so far, particularly for the stability, and also for the many, I think by now 10 agreements already signed, and this will be one more agreement. And we predict it will actually help Vietnam to attract a lot more foreign direct investment than before. So with that additional foreign direct investment, we'll see an increased transfer of modern technologies to Vietnam. It's already happening. Some of Vietnamese companies that are producing for high-end international companies are using very advanced technology. They are introducing more and more robots on the way. But still, if you look at the majority of companies in the industries, and particularly key industries like textile, clothing, footwear, electronics, especially there, those shift to more foreign direct investment will drive this move to newer technologies a lot. And in this sense, CPTPP will be a key accelerator of this technological change with Vietnam. And this is the most critical point for Vietnam, because in a report in 2016, we estimated that about 70% of all jobs in the manufacturing sector are actually could be potentially impacted by automation. That means they're either going to be disappearing or being like changed and affected in different ways. So in that sense, as I said before, my argument is that is actually technology is the game changer of Vietnam. And CPTPP is just an accelerator of these processes that Vietnam needs to pay attention to. Oops. Could you move to the next slide, please? This is not working. Anyways, I had prepared also 2 short videos of a small company I went to last week in the south of Vietnam, mostly manual labor. You walk into the factory, you see 200 people all doing manual labor, a few machines for the more heavy tasks. And then I've come across modern technology that's now being advertised for the more sophisticated companies, where everything's done is by robots, where you have like a few machine operators just controlling the robots, checking in once in a while. And if you see those 2 contrasts, it really makes it clear how much Vietnam needs to move in terms of investments in the labor force. Because you will need people who can not only install those machines, you need people who can basically operate the machines, adjust them, repair them, maintain those machines. And these are all skills which are currently not sufficiently present in the workforce in Vietnam. For example, if you look at these figures I put up on the slide, you can see that, so this is from company feedback. 40% of companies say that the most important skills in the future are going to be technical skills related to science, technology, engineering, and math. So really hard skills on these areas, but as the speaker before also said, soft skills are a lot more important. So 33 and 31% respectively of companies saying that teamwork and communication are also skills that are increasingly going to be more and more important. And also we know these skills are not sufficiently taught in universities and also not in TVET schools. And likewise, companies saying the most difficult skills to find in the market at the moment are things like strategic thinking and problem solving, technical knowledge, innovation, creativity. So very much these kind of soft skills which require a different way of operating, thinking, instead of just executing manual labor. So this is probably too small for you to properly see, but this also shows that having good human resources is only one part of the story, but having the best human resources without good management is not going to lead anywhere. So at the same time, many companies need to improve the way they manage their workforce and introduce more modern ways of doing that by using performance management, like feedback cycles, what we call bundle of high-performance workplace practices that make sure workers are productive or not just putting the hours of work in, but really producing something that's tangible and brings benefit and added value to the companies during the hours of work. And there it shows basically Vietnam is in the lower third of management practices at the level of Kenya, India. So not all the way down, but a long way to go from the top performers, which are, as usual, like the United States, Japan, Germany. So there's a lot to learn from these countries in terms of how to run companies and how to run human resources in a way that they can perform at their most productive. So what can Vietnam do then to respond to all these challenges? So from what we know from other countries, the biggest boost in productivity still will come from expanding the universal primary necessary education. So its advantages in productivity for the whole workforce will be better, and also it will help to address these inequalities that I mentioned in the beginning. So I think that this should be definitely a starting point for Vietnam. And then, as I said, related to this request from companies that they need more applicants that have technical knowledge, so science, technology, engineering, math, those are all key subjects, and governments can promote like awareness raising campaigns, make it clear to university and TVET applicants that these are the topics that will bring them jobs and good paying jobs in the future. So, and another important topic we've seen is TVET reform, and Vietnam has done a lot in this area. like making schools a lot more independent from nationally set curricula will be an important key to make them more responsive to the needs of the private sector. And they are also introducing apprenticeships and connecting the learning in the classroom to what's happening in the companies. These are things that will be more and more crucial and need to be part of the curriculum in the TVET system in all schools. This is really, really critical. I'm from Germany, and everyone says in Germany one of the biggest competitive advantages is the system of apprenticeships and vocational training. And I believe this is also true for Vietnam. And what the speaker before also said, this link between the private sector, the training providers and the public sector, this is going to be really, really crucial, because the private sector needs to be the owner of the education system, that's true. But in all countries, this is always a collaborative effort between the public sector and the private sector. So there we need to think a lot more about public-private partnerships, feedback loops, how the private sector can feedback to the public sector, what skills are needed, why our current schools are not performing, and how to improve them. So these are just a range of ideas, and I'm happy to discuss them with you more in the next session. Thank you so much.